Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today we're going to be painting Tuscan Archway, and I'm going to be sipping on a little Montepulciano, and I'm really excited to tell you why we're painting this today. Alright, so a few weeks ago, I posted a painting that was inspired by a photograph that I took when I was at Monet's garden in Greenery during a backpacking trip that I took with my family a few years ago. Well, one of the other places we went to on that trip was Tuscany. We went all over Tuscany, from Cinque Terre and Pisa to the north, to Siena, to Valdorcia, to the south, and we soaked up the scenery, ate some great food, and drank a little wine. Well, actually, a lot of wine. And I did a few open air paintings that I posted a while back, and I took a lot of photographs. Well, kind of thousands, to be honest with you. And this painting that we're doing today is totally inspired by one of those photographs. So I really hope you enjoy this painting here today. So let's get painting. Let's get sipping. Okay, so for the materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today with a whole bunch of colors. I've got titanium white, fire red, cobalt blue, Mars black, green oxide, burnt umber, which I'll call brown, burnt sienna, which I'll call rust, and this is a deep yellow. And again, if you're painting with me, you can certainly switch up those colors, but that's what I'm going to be using. For my tools today, I have a number 2 pencil, I have a 1/2 inch wide bristle brush, I have a number 8 round brush, and a number 3 round brush. I'm going to refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. Again, you could switch those up if you'd like. If you're painting with me, you're going to need a cup of water for washing your brushes and a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, there's a couple more resources for you. So one of them is a link where you could purchase the same paint kit that I'm using. It's got the same colors, the same brushes, the same big canvas that I have, and it's convenient and affordable. So there's that. And then there's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So some people like to use that as a visual reference, so you can go there, print it, and have it while you're painting, as well as written step-by-step instructions. And that's all we're going to need today. All right, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're drawing a sketch of our wall and our hill, our top, separating our sky from our land. I'm going to be using my pencil, and I'm going to have you make a couple of markers, and then we're just going to connect them. We're going to play connect the dots for a minute here. So you're going to come up on the left-hand side about 2 inches, make yourself a mark, and then you're going to use your pencil as a ruler, and you're going to measure how high you put that mark. Then you're going to come over maybe about another 3 inches or so and make another mark at the same height. Then you're going to go the same height and come to about the halfway point of your canvas and make yourself another mark. And then you're going to take that same height and go all the way to the end of your canvas over here, make yourself a mark. So then what we're going to do is we are going to connect these two, and then you're going to go straight down to the bottom of your canvas. And then you're going to connect these two, and it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. We're going to be painting over it, so don't worry about it. And then you're going to come straight down like this. So there's your wall. So now we're going to create a like a horizon line for our land. So you're going to come down on the left-hand side about halfway down your canvas and make a mark. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to come down about 1/3 of the way. So to know how far down that is, you can eyeball your halfway point, stick your finger there. Then you can eyeball halfway between these two, right about there, and it's right between those two. So somewhere right about there. So we have it down 1/3 of the way here, and half of the way here. And now you're going to make yourself a roly-poly horizon line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of rolling little hills in through here. I'm going to just come down just as gentle as you want. You're going to end up meeting down here. Maybe I've got something like this. And that is all we're going to do for our sketch. We're going to take out our large bristle brush for the next step so you can get ready. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting our sky. I'm going to use my big bristle brush and I'm going to be using blue and white paint. My only goal here is to make it look like a beautiful summer day. I want a nice blue sky, but I like to have my sky darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. So I'm going to start with blue and white on my brush, and I'm going to be doing like almost like a crisscross kind of motion. And then as I come down towards the horizon line, I'm going to stop picking up blue at some point, probably not very far. I'll stop picking up blue, and what'll happen, I'll just pick up white without washing my brush. My sky will naturally get lighter and lighter as it comes down. So here we go. I'm picking up blue and white on my brush. I'm going to start right up at the tippy top so I can kind of see what color is happening. Plus I like to paint the sides of my canvas, so that gives me an opportunity to paint the top. And I'm digging what color that is happening. So I'm going to pick up some white paint right now. And I'm going to do these long kind of crisscross, almost like a figure eight motion. And what's going to happen is, as I develop this sky, it's almost going to look like nice, gentle clouds rolling by on a beautiful summer Tuscan day. So you can have fun with this. And again, I'm not going to pick up any more blue. I'm just going to pick up white, and it's going to get lighter and lighter as I come down this sky. And you can just kind of imagine yourself in this beautiful, European land, and it's a nice, beautiful summer day, and maybe there's some summer bugs making their noises that they do on a hot summer day. So just get lost in it, enjoy the process, and if you can get it a little bit lighter as it's coming down towards that horizon, great. You can bump into your hills too. So just know that it's okay if you end up bumping into those hills. So you'll probably still be able to see your pencil mark underneath that paint. So I'd rather have you bump into the hills than to miss painting some of the area in your sky. So we are going to use the same brush for the next step. So after you get your beautiful summer sky painted in, you can wash and, sorry, I have trouble stopping sometimes. You can wash and dry this big brush and get ready for the next step. Okie dokie. So what we're going to do for the next step is we are doing our first layer, or the first step to our rolling hills. So I'm going to use my big brush, and the dominant colors that I'm going to be using are yellow and white, but I'm also going to be using green, rust, and brown. So as we come down the hill, or down towards the wall, you might be using more of the rust or the brown. Ooh, I gotta say something about the colors before I go for any farther. So I call them rust and brown because that's my easy layman term for them. However, we are definitely using these fun colors today because so we're using burnt sienna and we're using burnt umber. So umber is from a town called Umbria in Tuscany, which is super cool. And then sienna comes from sienna. So there's raw sienna and burnt sienna. So I'm using burnt sienna. And I guess I could be wrong here. I'm gonna go on my regular knowledge here. I think that those towns got their name and the colors got their colors because of the clay that's within the ground. So if you go to Tuscany, they use this clay for everything, for a whole bunch of building materials. So it's really cool because these colors that, we just see in a paint tube and just they're called whatever they're called, most of them come from natural elements, and these two particular colors come from the place where we're painting, which is super awesome. So I'm sorry, I digress every now and again. Let's get back to painting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with yellow and white on my brush. The biggest key for this step is never use a lot of paint. You can always paint over or change it because it's going to dry really fast. But if you use a ton of paint, what might happen is you might overblend and the whole thing turns into one color, which isn't necessarily horrible. We can fix it later on step number 2 for the hills. But just know the more you can kind of separate these colors, the easier your task is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with yellow and white on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of start up at the top. I want them to be lighter up at the top, so I'm just going to kind of get all the way up, cover my pencil mark. If you can still see your pencil mark a little bit, don't worry, because we're going to be doing many steps to these hills, so you don't have to worry about pencils showing right now. We'll get rid of them later. And then I'm going to just kind of bring this yellow and white all the way over here. And I am bumping into my sky, which is great because we want these to be nice and almost faded up at the top. And then as I come down, I'm starting to run out of paint right now, and I got to make a decision. What do I do next? Oops, I hear my doggies barking. Maybe they'll quiet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of green, and then I'm going to put a couple of areas of green in here. And I know that I want this to resemble hills, but I'm not really terribly concerned about putting every single hill in place right now. I'm really just interested in getting some splotches of color without muddying it. So I just put a little bit more green on my brush. Maybe I've got a green spot there. Maybe I've got another light green spot over here. Now I'm not washing my brush. I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that rust or burnt sienna. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit over here. Maybe I've got a little bit down in through here. And you can see I'm not really terribly concerned about making it look exactly like a hill. I'm just kind of getting these colors to be represented within this landscape. And then maybe I pick up a little bit of the brown. So I've got a little bit of brown. Oh, I think I want a little bit more green down in through here. I didn't wash my brush. I just picked up a little bit of green. And now I've got all of these colors now, but I haven't painted the whole thing. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of yellow and white. That's going to kind of be my complementary color to just fill in the gaps in between. And you can see I didn't overdo it. I'm just really going for some gentle splotches of, because that's my technical painting term, splotches of these indigenous colors in my rolling hill. And these hills go on and on as far as the eye can see. They're just rolling. I feel like I want to just like start from one end with a big summer sled. Do they have summer sleds? I don't know. And roll or just sled down all of these hills. They're just beautiful. I'd probably be, my sledding adventure would probably be thwarted by a vineyard or something, which might grab more of my attention than a rolling. But I'm just going to keep painting this until I've got the whole area covered in. But you can see as I'm wrapping up here, I'm just using yellow and white. I want the yellow to be the dominant color, but I don't want it to be super, super in your face bright yellow. So that's why I'm using it with a little bit of white as well. And I'm just going to kind of go in through this little area here. Maybe I'll use a touch more green as I get down into this little crevice here. And it's okay if you bump into your wall, because again, we're going to be painting over that, so don't worry about that. And then we are going to switch brushes to our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got your roly-poly hills all nice and started, we are going to put this large brush away in the water cup, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. Okay, so what we're going to be doing for the next step is we are painting our walls, or at least the base of them. I'm going to be using my number 8 round brush, and the colors that I'm using are brown, burnt umber, rust, burnt sienna, yellow, and white. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to have all 4 colors on my brush at the same time. And I'm gonna just kind of do a messy, I've got a lot of paint. Whereas I told you, you don't use a lot of paint here, now you can totally use a lot of paint. And I'm gonna create myself an outline that doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm really just gonna dot in between. So every time I go to pick up paint, I'm gonna pick up a different color quantity of each of those colors. So maybe one time I just pick up brown, maybe one time I just pick up yellow, maybe one time I just pick up the rust color. I don't really care how beautiful the edges of my wall are, because I know that we're going to be disguising that with other stuff. So just feel free to make it as messy as you want. I'm keeping mine nice and kind of textured looking. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. I reloaded my brush with all 4 colors. I'm just going to hide my pencil mark, and I'm going to go ahead down here. This color reminds me of, once we put all of these colors together, it reminds me of terracotta. Now, I don't know if that's a color or if it's a clay or what it is, but when I mix all these colors together, that seems to be what I get. So I know that there's terracotta pots. I know that people call it a terracotta color. I know that there's terracotta tiles. I know that there's terracotta roofing. So I'm gonna guess that it has something to do with the clay. But why would they call it burnt sienna and burnt rust and terracotta? So I don't know. It's very easy to confuse me. So I'm just gonna paint my wall, and we'll call it a Tuscan wall. We won't give it a name of a terracotta wall or a burnt sienna wall or a burnt umber wall. And then for the next step, we are going to be using our, let's see, what are we going to use? We're going to use the same brush for the next step. So once you get done this, you can wash. Oh no, you don't even have to wash and dry it. Just take a sip and get ready for the next step. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are painting our arch between the walls. So I'm using that number 8 brush, and I'm going to use the same colors that I used on the wall, and I'm going to load them all on my brush at the same time. And I like to do this because it's going to naturally give you multiple color variations throughout it, and it just, I think, looks super cool. So that's why I do it. So I'm going to reload my brush, brown, rust, yellow, and white. And I'm going to have you make a dot, and the dot is you're going to eyeball kind of the center, wherever the center is between here, and you're going to go straight up, and you're going to go maybe about an inch or 2 above your horizon line. So you can go higher if you want, depending on how roly-poly your hills are. But the key here is we want to be able to see the sky and the hills in that arch. It just gives it a good perspective. So here we go. I'm going to kind of eyeball up. I'm going to go up maybe about 2 inches above there. I'm going to make myself a dot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an arch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a curved line at the top here and then just come straight down. And then I'll do the same thing on the right hand side. So if you want it wide, just push hard. It doesn't matter if it's thin or wide, whatever is visibly appealing to you. So here we go. I'm going to go do my curve, and I'm going to come straight down, and I ended up a little bit inside my wall. That's okay. I can modify that. I didn't want to bow it out, so I just decided to come straight down. So here we go. I'm going to do it on the right hand side too, and I'm going to eyeball it. And if yours isn't perfect, don't worry, because we're going to hide it with a whole bunch of flowers. So don't worry if you don't get this perfect. There's a big step that will help you to disguise it. And then we are going to be switching brushes to our large brush after this. So once you've got your beautiful arch in here, you can put your medium brush away in your water cup, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are identifying the tops of our hills. So I'm going to use my big brush, and I'm going to use green, rust, and brown. Those are going to be my dominant colors. And if something goes wrong, you can always pick up a little bit of yellow and white because that's your base color. So you can always use that to kind of help you out. The trick here is I'm not going to use a lot of paint. I'm going to use almost what's referred to as a dry brush technique. And my goal here is to identify the tops of the hills. So when you look out into a Tuscan landscape, there, like I said, there could be hundreds of little hills. And in order for you to kind of see the difference of them, there's got to be some identity to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of a darkness at the top of them that can signify grass or dirt or a farm field or something along that line. So I'm going to use my big brush, and I'm going to start with a little bit of green because I know that that's pretty safe, and you know, grass will be everywhere, so I can use a little bit of green. I don't want to put a lot of dirt everywhere, so green is definitely a safe color. And what I'm going to do is I am personally going to be looking for what happened in the last round. So I see this dark area, I see the top here, I see the top here. So I'm going to try and go with what I've already created. But I do want something up here, and I don't have a dark spot up there. So I'm going to just get that little bristle off there, a little tiny bit of the green, and I put it at the top, and then I just kind of rub it out into the dry area. Then maybe I've got another one right in through here. And maybe I've got one right in through here, which was kind of already there. I'm just enhancing it. Now I still have green on my brush, so before I go into those other colors, I'm going to kind of go with what I see on the green. I don't see one here, but I'm going to make one. And if you bump into, oops, I just totally put a fingerprint in there. If you bump into that, don't worry about it. I'm not terribly concerned about over here because I know I'm going to have a bunch of flowers, but if there's something that you want to do, feel free to do so. I think I want to have a nice one in through here with some green right there. Maybe this pops over here. Now I'm going to pick up a teeny tiny bit of rust. I didn't wash my brush. Now I'm going to I see a couple in through here. So you can see I'm just really kind of taking what I've already got and just enhancing it a little bit. This is going to give you a lot of information in these hills. I mean, they're just beautiful. They roll. You can, you know, I can't say enough of how cool they are. They're nothing like where I live, I can tell you that. I live in a place where we have lots of hills, but you can't see them off in the distance like you can see these. So now I'm going to put a tiny bit of brown paint on my brush. I didn't wash my brush, and I'm just going to kind of add as many more as I want. Again, the top part is the more important part. Maybe I've got some in through here. Maybe these are going to be close. Maybe I'm going to put brown and green on my brush. You can really have fun. The closer it gets to you, or the more towards the bottom, the more liberal you can be with the darknesses, because it's going to be almost more in focus than those top ones are going to be. So have fun with it. If you've got them really dark at the bottom, awesome. You know, if you've got a lot of your burnt sienna in through there, just have fun with it. Make it whatever you imagined your beautiful trip to Tuscany would look like. And then we are going to use the same brush for the next step, but we're going to wash it and dry it so you can just get ready for the next step. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are doing our first layer or first step for the flowers. So I'm going to be using my big bristle brush, and the colors I'm using are green and black. And what I'm in essence doing here is I am creating the shadows and the dark spots between the flowers. And we're going to be doing kind of an impressionistic version of poppy flowers, which are very popular in Tuscany. I think they might be the second most popular after the sunflower. They have sunflower fields, they have poppy fields, so they're awesome there. They have so many good things happening. They have wine, they have beautiful flowers, they have rolling hills. They even have Pinocchio. You probably didn't know that. So I'm going to be using my green and black, and I'm going to use them at the same time on my brush. I may switch. I'm not going to wash my brush, but sometimes I might pick up just green and sometimes I might pick up just black. That way I'll have some really dark spots and some really light spots. And when you're doing this, you don't have to dot the entire area. This is just meant to look like the in-between spots of the flowers. So I'm going to have some on the tops of my walls. I'm also going to have it kind of draping over my arch, but I definitely don't want to lose this center area in through here. So just, you know, be mindful of that. So here I go. I'm just going to start dotting away, and I don't push hard. I don't mush it all together. I'm really just kind of in my head saying, okay, I'm going to want some flowers here, so I'm just going to add some kind of darkness in through that area. I know I want mine to kind of like billow out and be really kind of prominent up here in this top left-hand corner. Again, I don't want to bring it too far into the viewing range through that beautiful hole that we've created. And then you can see I'm leaving all of these spots in between. I'm still just picking up green and black, and I'm not dotting really hard. I'm just kind of using the tip of my brush. I think I'm going to have a big area coming out over here maybe. Maybe I've got some coming down this post in through here. Then maybe I've got some over the top of my wall here. And I don't want to bring it too high because I want this really to be a part of the focus. So I am just going to kind of sporadically dot this at the top of the wall and maybe bring down some spots just a little bit here and there, and try not to get it too consistent. I just ran through a little bit of wet white paint. I'm not concerned about that. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of an area over here, bringing it down a little bit in through here. And then we are going to switch brushes to our, let's see, what brush are we going to use? We're going to use our medium brush for the next step. So when you get this nice and dotted in through here, you can put your large brush away in your water cup, pick out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. Okay, so what we're going to do next is a super easy and fun step. We're going to be painting some grass at the bottom of our wall. I don't know if it's stone or clay, so we're just going to call it a wall. I'm using my medium brush, and I'm going to be using black and green paint, just like I did up here. So my thought process here is just that this grass is in the shadow on the other side of the wall. All the sunshine is over on the hills. This is just in the, you know, in the shadows, and I want to kind of ground my wall so it doesn't look like it's floating there. So I definitely want to have some kind of greenery or some kind of vegetation down at the bottom. So I'm going to use green and black paint, and really all I'm doing is flicking up in a curved kind of motion. I don't hold my brush tight, and that way it gives me some natural bend to the grass, and you want to have it at different lengths. You can certainly hide the edge of your posts here, which I totally dig doing, because that kind of makes it almost look like you're going down deep into this beautiful vineyard, or you know, you're in a secret place. And it definitely looks like somebody has not come and mowed the grass lately, which I can attest to is definitely the regular scenery when you're driving down the street and you see all these beautiful farms, and they've got these beautiful gates and these rolling hills and, you know, these beautiful houses off in the distance, and nobody's mowed the area right outside their gates. So just have fun with it. Put as much there as you want to. Make it wild grass. Mother Nature has a way of being wild. You can make some tall, some short. Again, I like kind of hiding this corner in through here so you can have them coming over the sides. And then we are going to use this same brush for the neck. Nope. I'm fibbing, we're going to be using our large brush for the next step. So once you have enough grass, you feel like it's nice and filled in enough, you can put this small brush or the medium brush away in your water cup, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are doing the second step to the flowers, or the red part of the flowers. So I'm going to be using my big brush, and we are just making an impressionistic version of poppies. So don't worry if they're not as detailed with every single little petal. We're just going to have fun with this and enjoy the process and get them to resemble poppies. So I'm going to use my big brush. The colors that I'm using are predominantly red, but I'm also going to use a little bit of brown, and at the end I'm going to use a little bit of white. So I'm using red, obviously, because that's the color of poppies, but I want there to be a little bit of dimension in it. So I'm going to use my first go around, I'm going to use mostly red, but I'll also use a little bit of brown on my brush. And what will happen is as that dries, you're going to get some light spots and some dark spots to the flower. So here I go. I'm picking up mostly red with a little bit of brown on my brush. I'm going to have some here. I'm going to have some all through here and down along here. But again, I'm going to be mindful that I don't want it to go too far into my landscape. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to just be kind of dotting the corner of my brush, and I'm going to be leaving a lot of that darker area showing. So that way it serves its purpose. We want that dark area to be there so it looks like there's shadows and there's some good dimension on those flowers. So that's probably all I'm going to, maybe I'll do a little button right there. Then I'm going to go kind of climbing up here, and I like it to be inconsistent. So I want, for my flowers, I want it to look like they're natural. So to me, natural flowers are not systematically put in order. So I'm really just going to have fun with this and just kind of dot where I feel looks natural. I'm going to have maybe some little clusters here and there, maybe some little peekaboo spots where you can see the sky behind them. I am using a good amount of paint, but again, I am reserving some of that darker area. So again, it looks like there is shadows, or we're going to be utilizing that for placement of our leaves, our little leaves that we're going to have in between. So again, have fun with this. Make it as bold as you want. Once you have the red on there, we're going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint to pop in a couple of little highlights, but you're not going to be putting too much on there. So I'm just getting my red all filled in here, and you can see I still have mostly red on my brush. There's little spots where I've got a little bit of brown, but red is definitely the dominant color, and I'm using it thick because I know that when this dries and it's on top of this dark background, it will tend to get darker as it dries. So the thicker it is, the more vibrant it will remain. And I'm almost done right here with this. You can see I'm leaving some down at the bottom just so some of the dark stuff at the bottom, so you can really tell that there is some shadows and stuff under there. And now I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just picking up a teeny bit of white paint, and I'm going to start just kind of delicately dotting in a couple of little highlights. I'm really just using the corner of my brush. I don't want this to be overwhelmingly white. I just want there to be some bits of sunshine just popping through. And then once we get done doing this, we are going to switch brushes to, let's see, what are we going to use? We're going to actually use our medium and our small brush for the next step. So I'm just going to kind of diligently go through here. You can see these little pops of white because I'm working on the wet red are blending in nicely, but it's not taking away from the look of it being red. So just, as you're dotting, don't mush it 1,000 times. Just kind of delicately add these little pops of highlights. I'm almost done here. And I just reloaded just a little bit of white. And now we're going to switch brushes to our medium and our small brush. Okay, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are finishing our landscape. So we're going to use both of our brushes, the small and the medium round brushes, and the biggest part of this landscape is the cypress trees. That's the most identifiable thing ever to a Tuscan landscape is those cypress trees. They can be so tall, and there's so many of them. They can, I don't know how tall they can be. They're normal. Some of them are normal height, like maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 feet tall. But there's some that you stand next to and you just feel like you're looking up right into the clouds. They're so tall. So am I going to guess here? Probably. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say that they can reach up to 80 feet tall. It's my guess. I could be wrong, but that's my guess. So I'm going to teach you how to make some really natural looking trees. They can, the distinct look to them, or the iconic look, is they're really tall and skinny, and they're kind of like a pine tree-esque with needles, but they're long needles that kind of stick up. They're really tall, and because our landscape is off in the distance, we're not going to make them this tall. We're going to give it a sense of perspective. So we're going to do a couple of tall ones in the front here. And then as we go further back into the landscape, you're going to make them smaller and smaller and smaller. You can even do some in through here. I'll show you how to do the illusion of like a vineyard or some farmland where there's maybe olive groves or something, which is a nice simple kind of just dotting technique. But we're gonna focus on the cypress trees first. I'm going to be using my medium brush. I'm going to do a couple of larger ones in through this hill and through here. I'm going to be using dominant color is going to be green, but I'll also use black and brown and yellow and white, so I can have a little bit of dimension to it. So you don't have to put them exactly on top of every hill. You can always put little greenery. They have lots of bushes along the hillsides, so it doesn't just have to be trees. You'll do trees and then little shrubs at the bottom of the trees. So here we go. I'm going to put green and black on my brush at the same time. And how I'm going to start this is just a series of vertical lines. So wherever you want that cluster of trees to be, what you'll do is you can make yourself a series of lines. I definitely suggest doing them different heights, and they can come down to different spots on the ground. So once you have them there, what you'll do is you're going to make little kind of diagonal lines going up. They really stay kind of pointy, or you can see almost, it's not really a trunk. I mean, I know it is a trunk, but you don't need to see a distinct trunkle, that's not a word, trunk area, trunkle. I make up so many fun words. So I'm starting with this almost like a V down at the bottom, and as I go up the tree, I'm going to make them more narrow and closer to the center of the tree. So it really kind of resembles a really tall triangle, but you have the V part at the bottom. So I'm just going to delicately put these branches up in that direction. And if you want to give it more dimension, you could put a little bit of yellow and white on your brush, and you can just kind of add a little bit of a lighter color to it. So that way it would give it just a little bit of dimension. Not necessary, but if you're having fun with this and you want there to be a dimensional element to it, you can certainly do that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for every tree within that cluster. And you're going to find that once you get these ones that are closest to you, you're not going to need to do this much detail on the rest. But these ones that are nice and close to you, you may want to add that extra bit of detail to them, so they really read as Tuscan cypress trees. And again, I like mine to be different heights. I'm going to put a little bit more black in this one so it has some more dimension to it. And then I got a little tiny one in through here. And again, they just get a smudge wider at the bottom. And then at the bottom where they meet the ground, you don't want to just have them floating like this. So I'm just going to kind of take my brush and just wiggle in some little grass, shrubs, whatever you want to call it. I just loaded my brush a little bit with green and brown, just so they don't look like they're just suspended in air there. And you could do like a little bush in between, whatever you feel it needs to make it look a little bit, you know, as realistic as you want it to be. It's totally fine. You could put like a little bush over here and just have fun with it. Build this landscape to be something that you would want to go and take pictures of. I just put a little bit more yellow and white on my brush just to give this a little bit more dimension in through here. Maybe one of them is a little bit wider than the other. So, you know, just have fun with it. I'm going to go ahead and start working. I'm going to show you how to do one of the rolling little vineyards. And then once I show you how to do that, then we're just kind of on our own, kind of working our way through the rest of the landscape. So again, I'm just using the darker, or all of the color, the neutral, natural colors that I've used in that in the first go around for the landscape. So right now, I'm going to kind of put a nice dark top on here, and then I'm going to give the illusion of rose. So I'm just kind of wiggling my brush. If I bump into my flower, that's okay. I can redo my flower. I'm going to just give the illusion. And I'm not using a lot of paint. So what's happening is I'm forcing myself to rub it, and it's making it look really nice and natural. And then once I've got the rose of whatever that farm is growing, now I can take that brush and add lighter colors like yellow, green, and white. And what I can do is I can start dotting, well, a little bit, I need a little bit more white so you can see it. I can start dotting like the illusion of the tops of maybe little bushes that are sitting in that vineyard or in that whatever kind of farm. It could be an olive grove, so maybe these are the tops of little trees that you're seeing. We're just really trying to just give it the illusion that there is something down there that is catching the sunlight on the top of it. And then once you've got, you know, you got the hang of it, maybe you want to start moving backwards. When I move backwards, by backwards I mean towards the top of your hills, which is farther away. Maybe I'm going to start using lighter colors. So as things go farther off in the distance in our visual range, the colors can become more muted because we don't really see them as much. So we're not able to see certain colors as they go far off in the distance. So by muting it, you're going to make it look a little bit more natural. So if I did another little rolling hill here, I've used less vibrant, I used more green and yellow here. Now I'm just using like a muted green. So I'm going to actually switch brushes too as I go further on back because I want smaller detail. So I've switched brushes to my small brush. Now I'm just going to kind of pick up some brown and green. I'm going to do some little cypress trees off here in the distance. And again, the ones that are far away, they certainly don't need as much detail as that one did, but you can certainly do as much as you want. You know, right now I'm just kind of dotting up or, you know, doing my little lines and then maybe giving it a little bit of texture on the side, maybe making some light areas and dark areas. I am going to put a tiny bit of black on my brush just so you can get the feel of dimension, like it's got a little bit of darkness in through there. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of white to my brush. Maybe I've got a couple way off here in the distance, off in this super edge of the horizon here, and you can hardly tell what they are because they're so far away. I've just got a little bit of a gray color. Again, I'm not really concerned about here because I'm gonna put some more flowers there, I'm sure by the, oh, maybe I'm not. I've got a little vacant area over here. I thought I was going to put flowers, but I guess I didn't. So let's just add some trees over here. And again, I'm just kind of giving a little bit of the illusion of cypress trees, which when you're off in the distance can really just be some vertical lines. I'm going to go and do some over here. Maybe I'll have some little bushes and stuff over here. That's pretty dark. Let's get a little bit more green and brown on my brush. And, you know, maybe some dots of some bushes. Gosh, this is such a beautiful land to go driving through. They have this area, I think it's called, it might be called the Cypress Mile or something. You go driving through these roly-poly hills and you can, so when you go driving through these, you're literally driving between the hills in some areas, and there's the cypress trees just line the whole way. And it's like, I think there's one distinct area that is a mile, at least a mile long. And all it is these enormous cypress trees. It's just so cool to see. And then there's other people who have these trees that just line their driveways. So it's like they've got their own cypress farm right on their property. It's just really cool. And again, if you want them to look a little bit more realistic, you can see here I'm giving them a little bit of that pine needle look at the top. That of course is going to give you more of a natural look to it. So if you want to see that detail off in the distance, feel free to do so. I'm going to add a little bit more green and white as I'm going back here. Oops, I got a little red on my brush. We don't need red cypress trees, even though I'm sure, and you can see I'm getting really small right now. So maybe I've got some little bushes along the hillside here. Just have fun. You can put little bushes and shrubs everywhere. It doesn't just have to be cypress trees. Maybe I've got this little distant little vineyard over here where I'm giving the illusion of these rows of some kind of, you know, farmland over here. Just again, have fun with it. Make it what you want. Do I want anything else? I think maybe a little bit more over in through here. I don't know. It's so hard to stop when you're having fun and just enjoying this process. Maybe I'll put more. I do like these trees. Maybe I'll put a little bit more over on this right-hand side. Where do I want them? Where do I want them? Where do I want them? Maybe I'll put another little bushel of them over here. Maybe these ones will be taller and they'll be a little bit more distinct or something. I don't know. It's so hard. It's so hard to stop. I just want cypress trees everywhere. All right. Oops, I got a little red on there. That's okay. All right, so we are going to be using our medium brush for the next step. You keep making as many cypress trees and farmlands as you want, and then we're going to switch brushes to the medium brush. So get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step, we are using our medium brush and we are putting the life in the leaves to our flowers. So I'm going to use my medium brush and I'm going to be using green, yellow, and white. And I'm going to use them all on my brush at the same time. You guys are probably getting the idea that I like to have multiple colors on my brush at the same time. And this is going to be a fancy flick is how I'm going to create my leaves. I'm just going to make flicks of this pretty color between my flowers. If you run into a little bit of wet red, just roll with it. It's okay. Life's going to go on. I'm just going to kind of add my leaves all throughout here. This is just going to add, again, more life to these. You could do squiggly vines. You could really have whatever kind of fun you want with this. I'm just kind of looking for vacant spaces and pushing my brush and doing like a little flick. So I've got some going outside of the dark area and into the sky area. That way you're going to see that they're more vibrant when I do that. And I am doing as many as I want. You can have some longer than others. You can have some shorter than others. You can have them in between the flowers if you want to. Whatever is visually appealing to you, have fun with it. Make it happen. Make it be as bold as you want. The more white you use, obviously, the more it's going to look like there's sunshine hitting these, or I should say light yellow, whatever, you know. If you've got a light yellow on it, you definitely want to be able to see the color. So if you're on top of a yellow area, you're definitely going to have to use more green or more white in order to be able to see it. So just know that, you know, you'll get the hang of it. If there's areas where, you know, you're having difficulty seeing it, it's okay. Just keep working at it. You'll get it. And again, you can have as much as you want or as little as you want. I got to do these bottom areas really quick. I'm not going to do too much on the bottom of them because I really want it to read like that's a shadow underneath there. So I'm just going to kind of do some up above and in between. So again, green, yellow, and white. I reload my brush often, and I'm doing them in between. I'm just kind of looking for vacant spaces that I can put them in, and they're going to kind of encapsulate the exterior and maybe a little bit of the interior, and I'm just taking my brush and kind of flicking it. That's really all I'm doing. And again, you can make them as bright as you want. More white and yellow is going to really make them pop. And then we are going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got all of your beautiful leaves in place, ooh, I've got to add a little bit more white now that I've just seen that happen. Hold on. Okay, so you can wash and dry this same brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do now, we're using our medium brush and we are adding the black dots to our flowers, because again, we want them to resemble poppies, and poppies have a little black center to them. So I'm just taking black paint. I don't need to do every single flower. I'm just going to kind of sporadically make myself a little bit of a black dot within some of these red areas, and I'm just kind of bopping along. I'm not really concentrating on having it perfect. I just want to give the illusion that these are in fact poppies. And then we have one tiny little step left. So once you've got your centers to your flowers, you can, we're going to use the small brush for that last step. So you can put the medium brush away in your water cup, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step, which is the final step of any painting, which is to sign it. So I'm using my small brush. I'm using black paint. I usually sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. This time I'm going to do it in the bottom left. I'm going to do my initials. You could certainly do your first name or the date or a symbol or whatever you want. It's your identifying mark. You have fun with it and do whatever you want. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you love your beautiful representational landscape. And I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.